Today is July 13th, 2016, and we are interviewing Michael Huckstadt in Taylorville. Mr. Huckstadt is 35 years old, having been born on November 3rd of 1980. My name is Sue Burkholder, and I will be the interviewer. Mr. Huckstadt, for the recording, would you please state what branch of service that you served?
I was in the United States Air Force.
All right, thank you. I'd like to start with some early details about your life, like where you were born, and those types of things. So where were you born, and what about your parents?
I was born in Danville, Illinois. My mom is Alice Lynn Huckstadt, and my father, which I was adopted at age 4, is Norman Huckstadt, and graduated high school from Danville in 2000. I was very excited about that.
What were the occupations of your parents?
My mom worked at one of the hospitals that I was born at, in dietary, and she was there for approximately 18 years. My Norman, he worked at Modern Machine Shop at the time, kind of working with metal and different projects that they had and everything.
All right, and did you have siblings?
I have one brother, Justin Huckstadt. He's 4 years younger than I am. Also from Danville, born in Danville and everything. So had a lot of stuff, medical stuff that happened when he was born. So was able to have a hand in that with helping take care of him and everything at that time. So yeah.
And did you have any other family members serve in the military?
I have my grandfather, great-grandfather, and then my uncle, which served 25 years in the Army and the Air Force. Was a really big push for me wanting to join and everything, just kind of being able to talk to him about it and hear what he's gone through and everything, and just there's something inside that wanted me to kind of follow in that footsteps and do that. So I just was, it was amazing to hear just his opportunities that he was given, but also to hear the different stories about what he'd been through and everything, what he would share with us, was just amazing to hear and everything.
And what were you doing before you entered the service?
I did a lot of fast food work. I worked at a skating rink in Danville, which I really enjoyed. That was probably my favorite job at Illini Skateland. They made you feel like you were part of the family, because it was all family, a lot of family that worked there, so they made you feel like family. But I worked my way in management and everything, so I learned a lot of leadership skills early on that was able to help me carry on into that, that helped me immensely succeed. So.
Okay. And what, thinking on then into when you entered the military, what branch did you choose, and tell us a little bit about that.
I originally started with the Army. I didn't really have a branch in mind to start with. I think it was just that they were the first ones that I walked into when I walked into the recruiting center. So I started with the Army. I went in, did that, went to the MEP station, filled out all the paperwork, which is a lot of paperwork to fill out each time you go. I went to the MEPS, did my physical and everything. Was told I needed to see a specialist just with, I had a skin graft on my leg that they were concerned it might affect me being in the military and everything. I was then told that I wouldn't be able to. They thought it was going to affect me doing my job, any job that I would get into. So then I went to the Navy. Didn't have to do all the physical and stuff again, but I did have to do the paperwork again. So that was another 2-3 hours worth of paperwork to do. And then kind of the same process that I went through with the Army, and wasn't able to get in. Went to the Air Force, same stuff happened as the previous. Went to the reserves, same kind of stuff happened. And then I was actually in the process of working with the Marines, and prior to that I actually wrote a letter that my uncle, Sparky, helped me write. It was my words, but he made sure that it was formatted properly for a person higher up to see, that I sent to the congressman, that went all the way up to the IG that eventually approved me to go into the Air Force. I ended up getting a phone call from the Army recruiter because he kind of had an idea of what was going on, and he had asked me, do I want to go in still? And I said yes. And he says, well, do you care what branch you go in? And I said, no, I'm ready to go. And he ended up having me talk to the Air Force recruiter, and that kind of was what started me to get into the Air Force. Went to the MEP station, enlisted, was told it was going to be about a month before I got to go to basic training. I was like, I'm ready to go now, can I go? And they're like, well, if something comes up, we'll let you know. And 2 days later, I actually was called by the recruiter saying, hey, they got something for you to go if you're ready to go tomorrow. And I was like, I am, let's go. So I didn't hesitate at all for that. So I ended up processing in, accepting, enlisting in, and heading for basic in August 1st of 2000.
So what did you think when you arrived at basic training? What were your first thoughts, and what did you think about those first few days?
It was, the first day was really, it was late in the evening, early morning when we actually got to our basic training. The guys there was 11 of us that came from Indianapolis. And we actually all stuck together just so that we would know somebody that was there. We might not have known them really well, but we knew somebody. It's kind of the way we thought about it. So we went, we got to the airport. It was still late. We had a holdover in Chicago when we flew in to Chicago to go to San Antonio. So it was one of those, you're kind of like, what's going on? You weren't really sure, but you were excited too. Kind of, it was one of those that you had a lot of mixed emotions. You were wondering what was going to happen. You know, you see the movies that everybody's yelling at you and this and that, and you're not sure what's going to happen. So I kind of went optimistic and said, hey, it's going to happen. I'm here. So I mean, I can't really, if they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And I was very happy to, be there regardless. So I kind of just said, I'm going to listen to what people had told me, but I'm going to be open-minded and let my time be my time, and figure out what happens at that time. When we went and got our haircuts and everything, that was nothing new. I like to keep my hair short, so that was fine with me. I was cut it off if you want to. It's kind of funny when some of the other guys are getting their hair cut and they come in with a whole head of hair, and you're getting told not to laugh at them and everything. So that was kind of a good experience, kind of to humble yourself. I remember that we were sitting in the day room getting ready to be assigned jobs and everything by our TI, latrine queen and that kind of stuff that nobody wants to get, but somehow gets it. My recruiter even informed me, don't raise your hand for nothing, and okay, I'm not going to raise my hand. And the TI says, so who's done crew leader and stuff with the restaurant and everything, and my hand shoots right up, and so does another guy. So I'm like, please know what you're talking about. And the TI basically told the guy he didn't know what he was talking about to sit down, and he called on me, and I ended up getting latrine queen. So I was in charge of cleaning the bathrooms, making sure they were clean, and if they weren't, I was the one getting them woke up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning saying, hey, this needs to be fixed, get it done. And then I also was a chow runner, where I would report the flight in for each meal and have to go into the snake pit and tell them. I had a whole long speech that I had to memorize, and it was my job to tell them, and I couldn't hesitate, or I was going to get grilled by the TIs, and there could be one TI sitting there, or there could be 5 of them, and you get really nervous the first couple times you do that. So, but I did it I was happy to do it. It was an experience for me to build my character and everything at that point.
So going on through basic training, what you learned in basic training, did it make you question anything or everything that you had knew before you joined?
Prior to basic and going into basic and finishing basic, I slowly noticed that my mindset would change on how you look at things and everything. I think that basic is meant to change you from the person you were to make you a better person in the end. Regardless if you go through a 6-month basic training, an 8-month or 8-week, however long the basic training is for you. For me, it was a gradual change to improve, because we had our first free inspection at basic, and you kind of think you got everything in line of their expectations. And when someone else gets something wrong and they got to walk around the barracks, you know, saying something, you know, it's really funny when you got to see that. But when you get to do it, that's a whole different thing. I had my geek buttoned on my jacket, and I had to walk around the barracks saying I'm a geek because I buttoned my top button 3 times. And 1 time is bad enough, but 3 times you're almost in tears by the end of it. So you break yourself down, but they break you down, but they build you back up to be a better person than you've ever been before. So it's a strengthening thing for you as a character builder that I strongly am very grateful that I was able to go through and everything.
Were there any of the instructors that are more memorable than the others?
You know, each one I was washed back twice for medical reasons. My first TI my first one is always your most memorable. But one thing that stuck out with him for me was he actually, before he became a TI and when he was at his other things, he actually was in the movie Armageddon. He got to be an extra in the movie, and that was something he was pretty excited about, besides everything else that he'd done. I mean, he had no problem being honest with you and everything, but he also was there to make sure that you succeeded in everything. And he had a picture in his office with Bruce Willis and everything, so he was, you know, it was something that he felt very passionate about. You could tell his attitude and everything. It wasn't there just to be there or just to get in everybody and everything, but he actually wanted to make sure that you succeeded no matter what. And I was able to experience that because when I got to my second flight that I was in, I was having some issues with the transition from that flight to the new flight and everything. And he actually talked to me. It was a stern talk, but not yelling or anything. More of a, hey, what's going on? Why are you? What's going wrong and everything. So that's kind of where I got that he was very supportive and everything. Tech Sergeant Briggs was his name. I remember it, you know, like it was yesterday. And then my third flight, Tech Sergeant Walton was my third flights instructor, which was the flight I graduated with. I came into him right towards the end of week 4 of my basic. I remember coming in, and the first thing he told me was that everybody's graduating with this. There's nobody getting sent back. We're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that you make it through. So it felt really secure that, hey, I knew I was going to make it. I had no doubt I was going to make it, but there were some times that I questioned myself. And during the washback, I ended up not getting a lot of PT time in. I was in the office answering, you know, doing the stuff that they needed me to do. So I kind of was a little hesitant that I wasn't going to pass the physical part of it, the running and everything, sit-ups. It was a little questionable, but in the end, I was able to pass it and was able to pass the test that we had to do, our written test. The funny thing with that was he made a deal with the flight at the beginning of when they first started with them that if everybody passed the test and nobody failed, he would do chow running for a day. So it sounded like a pretty good deal. So we take the test in the morning, and by the afternoon they had the results. So the other TI that was in helping out him, he came out to the group at lunchtime and said, so what happened? I mean, you know, you guys ready for this and everything? And we're all kind of looking around like, what's going on? So at dinner time, Sergeant Walton came in out to dinner chow and everything while we're waiting to go in, and he tells us what happened. What happened, guys? You guys did really well against your brother flight that you had and everything when you guys practiced and everything, and what happened? And we're all like, what do you mean what happened? You know, we thought we did pretty good. And he kind of paused for a minute, and then he says, everybody passed basically. There was so many that had 100% and nobody failed. And there's other flights out there and we're all getting excited and everything. He's like, calm down, calm down. He's like, when you guys go in the chow hall, I want you guys to clear out the dessert, because there was no eating dessert unless you were okay to do it. You eat dessert and you're not supposed to, the snake pick guys would come in and say, hey, and they'll ask you a question out of the study material that you're supposed to be studying. And if you didn't know it, you were going to be in some trouble. So he ended up doing the chow runner and everything, and told us not to laugh while we were walking by him and everything. And he took it with a very, very humble about it and everything. He did it, and we had a great time. So, yeah.
You've mentioned snake pit guys a couple times. Can you explain that?
Snake pit is just where the TIs sit when they're ready to eat and everything. And basically when you're going in to report the flight to come in to eat and everything, you don't just get to go in and eat. You actually have to, the chow runner goes in, talks to the TI and says, flight such such prepared to enter the dining facility on the east side or whatever side you're on. And then the TI will tell you something, you repeat what the TI says. And then you're able to go out to where your flight's at and inform the flight where they're at and everything to go in to eat and everything. So it was a very orderly, they had this is how it's going to be done and everything. And before you even said anything, you had a trainee Huckstadt reporting for duty or reporting as ordered. There was there was so many things that you had to do in a specific way, and if you didn't do it, you were going to be corrected, just to make sure that you were doing it, because that's their way of making sure that you understand that if you're given an order to do, this is what we want you to do and everything. So.
And what about the food? What did you think of the food while you were in?
I remember that you had to drink 2 Gatorades and water every meal. So that kind of just became normal, okay, here we go, and you drank them. You didn't have a lot of time to eat. Basically, by the time you sat down, when your 4 people got at the table, there's 4 of you sitting at a table. By the time the table next to you filled up, you were time to go. So there was no talking to the guys or anything like that. Like if you were just having a casual meal with somebody, you actually sat down and ate. It wasn't bad. I don't necessarily remember it being horrible or anything. I think it was edible and everything, obviously, because they're not going to give you anything. But it wasn't no fast food, hamburgers and pizza and everything. But I never got to, but doing KP duty was always a plus for people that wanted to, because then you got to kind of get a little bit extra and everything. So that was a pretty interesting time. I don't really remember, because it was kind of one of those that you eat real quick, you go out and you're out doing other things. So it wasn't a matter of remembering too much on that. So.
What about how many people were in the barracks with you?
I want to say there was about 200 of us in each flight, and you either had a brother or sister flight, depending on where everybody was at in the rotation and everything. So about 200 people in your flight graduating class.
So like in each specific room,
it was split off in 2 rooms. You had about 100 people on each side.
Oh, okay.
And there was single beds and bunk beds too. So some people were lucky to get just a single bunk, and then I was unfortunate and I was in the back of the room in one of the bunk beds. So matter of keeping the bed made, you kind of learn how to sleep in your bed without moving too much, so then making your bed the next morning would be a little bit quicker and everything. Starting out, you didn't figure that out too well, but there was one of the rules, they said no sleeping on top of the comforter. You had to be underneath. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So yeah.
What type of friendships did you make during basic?
During basic, a bond with your flights completely. As far as like a personal, there wasn't really a buddy kind of thing, but it was more of a really, really close between everybody. There was no separating from each other or anything. You kind of did everything together no matter what, whether it be showering, whether it be going to chow, whether it be doing PT. Everything that we did, go shopping at the BX and everything to get hygiene stuff and things for until the next time we could go. Everything was amazing that it's just a lot different than just having a basic friend. You have a lot of guys that are together no matter what. And even when you go from flight to flight, you kind of just get accepted into the group and everything. There's no, he's the new guy kind of thing. You're treated as an equal and everything, and not just by your flight members, your brothers and everything, but by the TIs and everything. They don't look at you any different or hold you down because you were in a different flight or anything. You're treated just as equal as everybody else.
So you made it through basic training.
Yes.
And what did you do next?
Well, actually at basic, when we had our graduation, I was able to, on the first day, on Friday, we had our graduation. We did a parade. Each flight was able to do a parade presentation on top of our graduation. And our TI actually the day before we did it taught us this razzle dazzle chain step and everything, and it was amazing. He didn't think we were going to get it down, but by the time we were ready to do it, he's like, all right, you guys got it. My family wasn't able to come to the graduation and everything. So the first day, one of the guys on my flight, him and his younger brother and me went to go see a movie at the movie theater on base. And that wasn't the greatest movie, but it was all right. So we got to see a movie for the first time. We ate Burger King that was right there, right before the movie. So it was just a great time. I was grateful to have him let me be part of his family, time and everything. And then the next day was the day that we got to leave base and go into San Antonio. Sounds pretty exciting. I didn't know what I was going to do that day at first, but a buddy of mine and his family was like, you can come with us. I'm like, are you sure this is your guys' time? They're like, no, come on. And so we went to see the Alamo. They had this one elevator thing that went up into the top where you can see all of San Antonio. So we did that, and then we went on the Riverwalk and got to go on the boat for a little bit. And then when all that was said and done, we still had a couple hours before we had to be back at the base. And we went to his parents' hotel. We ended up falling asleep because we were just so wore out. I was wore out from being excited and everything, just seeing something different and everything. And then on the last day, on Sunday, you stayed on base. You got a little bit more time. I think I just kind of walked around, just kind of taking it easy and just enjoying the little bit of freedom, kind of difference from what you were used to doing this and everything. So then we got back, and the Sunday night we got our orders from RTI. He'd come into the day room. We actually, as a group, we had a really respect for him as a TI for what he did for us and everything. We had a theme song for the group and everything, so we ended up playing it. And when he came in, we were all set up. We had the dorm guard guys sitting at the door waiting for him to come in, to let him in and everything. That was kind of our signal. When he came in, we all stood at attention and played the song. It was just amazing, and he stood there in awe, I think, and I think it was exciting for him. So yeah, and we got our orders, and I ended up going to Medina, which was just on the other side of Lackland, right there at Lackland, Medina Air Force Base, for my schooling for services. So.
One thing I meant to ask you during basic, when you were facing challenges, mm-hmm. and you were maybe thinking, I don't know if I can do this, or something like that, how did you find the inner strength? What did you do to help find that inner strength to just keep going?
You see the guy next to you doing it. You just tell yourself, if he can do it, there's got to be a way I can do it. I don't like giving up at all. I have a hard time just saying that's it. And I think that really puts you to the test, though, too, when you go through basic. It gives you an opportunity to see what what you are made of inside, and what you've done in life to get you to this point and everything. And even if you've done a lot of bad things, if you've not succeeded a lot, I think basic actually brings the better out of somebody, because you got guys supporting you. If you got push-ups to do, and everybody's doing it. It's not just singled out and everything. It's a group thing. So, or if you want to go to church and you got to do dorm guard duty, you find one of your brothers that are in your group, in your flight, and say, hey, I want to go, will you cover for me? And 9 times out of 10, well, except for church, it was a little hard to find because everybody wanted to go to church just to kind of get away. Everybody's helps out everybody no matter what. If you're in trouble, the next guy sees it and they help you out. You got your element leaders that are there to help out. They're the 4 guys that are in the front of the line that are leading us everywhere, but if something goes wrong, they're the 4 guys that get held accountable for it too and everything. It's just a group effort. I mean, you really, if you are struggling, your guys are going to help you get through it and point out that, hey, we see this, hey, fix it and everything, because if you don't, we're going to be doing some push-ups or this or that, and we don't want to. So the first week I was there, we ended up having about 200 or 300 push-ups to do because of marching, and I think it was just the way a TI just kind of, and we did it as a group. It wasn't, do it individually when you want to or whatever. It was, you're going to do it when we tell you and do it then. So it's just you get the support of your brothers no matter what, in good times and in bad times.
So you went on to your advanced training, and what was that for?
It was in services, which is a cook mostly. There was some other restaurant managing stuff. It was basically one of the jobs in the Air Force that we didn't have to call on one of the other jobs to help us out and do stuff. We took care of housing and things like that. So it was really good, but the main focus at AIT school was cooking and everything. So I had a great time with that.
All right, so then tell us, as you got toward the end of your training, how did everything transpire there?
Training was great. The instructor was very knowledgeable, was willing to help you learn everything that he possibly could teach you. You had a lot of hands-on activity. You had some classroom work that you obviously had to do, but you also had a lot of hands-on cooking where you're cooking breakfast, and it just, I learned by the hands-on doing, and so that was able to help me be able to understand stuff a little bit easier. But I worked in food, so I was really familiar with a lot of the procedures and stuff already. This was just their way of, this is how we expect you to do it when you go to your next base assignment, so this is what we want you to do. During AIT school, I ended up meeting some people. Went skating, roller skating with a couple people. We were on our way back. It rained really. It was probably the first time it rained. It didn't rain at all in basic, but I got to tech school and it seemed like it rained all the time. So I don't understand what happened there. But we were actually on our way back. We were at the gate to get back into the base. The road was flooded over. Couldn't get through. I was worried I was going to get in trouble because I wasn't back on time. The people I were with, they said, go ahead and send them, because it was a couple girls that I went with, and they were like, told the taxi driver, go ahead and go through, and if we get stuck, they'll send me out and push. And I said, there's more of you than me. You guys can get out. So I was able to make a lot of great friends there. You ended up sharing a room with another guy that was in your group with you at the time. It was kind of like a college dorm, basically. You had 2 guys to a room. There was 2 beds, a refrigerator, desk. Pretty much had everything you needed in the room. Phone, so you could call if you wanted to order a pizza and have it delivered or whatever to you to eat. And then there was a little mini BX at Medina. They had a little small one, so you could get stuff there. You just go a mile and a half back over to Lakeland and get something there. So about 2 or 3 weeks, I was about 4 weeks into training into my AIT school, and we had some numbskulls that decided to underage drink at the officers club. So we had a big meeting. The whole people that were at Medina, everybody was told that, hey, we don't want to see this happen again. And a couple days later, we get told that it's basically going to be like being back in basic. You march everywhere now. You're in your BDUs all the time. You don't get to leave base. It was basically like being back in basic. You were painting walls and repainting walls and cleaning and re-cleaning, and it was I was like, these guys just didn't think about it and everything. So but I ended up I was a week from graduating my school. I was having some headaches, trying to find out what was causing them. They sent me to the hospital at Lackland. They couldn't figure out what was causing them and everything. I was speaking with the doctor, told him I don't want to leave and everything. I worked so hard to get in and everything. I don't want to be out. And they tried a couple different things. Nothing was really helping. And basically came to the conclusion that it was that we were going to have to separate me out at that time. So about a week before I was going to be graduating from school, I had my base assignment. I did a 3-way switch with somebody to get Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska. I originally had Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina, but a buddy of my flight wanted that because his family lived about 10 minutes from there, so it was kind of he wanted it, and he had somewhere in Washington State, and I was like, well, it was right around Christmas time, and I want a little longer on leave before I have to go to base, so I said, I want an overseas assignment. If you can find one, we'll do a switch. And luckily, a girl that was in our flight, she had graduating class, she had Eielson Air Force Base, and she was all acceptable for going to Washington, so it kind of worked out for everybody as a group. And there was actually going to be another person in my flight that was actually graduating that was going to be going there also. So we were going to go to one place or the other's house, and that way we could just leave together, get there at the same time. We would know somebody, make it feel a little more comfortable for us and everything. So, but I ended up having to out process the day. I ended up processing out and leaving. Actually, I was supposed to graduate the next day, so it was really, that time was very heartbreaking for me, but I was able to take everything and use it through life.
So how did your military experiences, how have they affected the rest of your life?
You know, you look at every situation and you try to say, well, if I was here, what would I have done? Every day I think that I wish I could still have been in and everything, but I also say, hey, look, I can't. There's a reason that I'm not in now, and I try to make the best of it as I can, and try to always improve on my situations and everything, no matter what. You get diversity, you get challenges that come in front of you and everything, and it's just a matter of how you handle it, what you do to make it better, and that's what I try to do every day. So I originally joined, one of the reasons I joined the military was for travel and education. Well, I'm actually starting to work on that education part and everything. The travel's going to come later down the road and everything for me, but it was an amazing experience for me that I wouldn't have changed for the world at all.
If you could name one positive thing that you took away from your experience in the service, what would that be?
I don't know how you choose one. Because one thing leads to the next thing. I think dedication and support for the next person next to you is one of the things. Like I said, there was so many things. I think that if you put your mind to something is another thing that you'll succeed no matter what. But if you have the right people around you and everything, that's the most important thing, is having the right people around you to make sure that you know that they'll guide you in the right way, the right path to succeed and everything. Without that, I mean, you have a possibility to succeed, but you have a lot better, stronger chance when you have that next person that's going to stand by you and say, hey, we got your back no matter what. And I'm hoping that maybe one day that I'll be able to be that person for somebody like I was, that people were for me. So.
Is there any message that you would like to leave for future generations who might see or listen to your interview?
Hopefully, you see the military numbers are kind of up and down and everything. It's the best life for anybody. You get so many opportunities that you may not get just being a regular civilian, not doing anything. You get a possibility to travel, to see the world. You get to meet people that you probably would never get to meet, and build friendships with people that you probably wouldn't have been able to build before. You get education taken care of for you. You have a job for as long as you stay in, so there's a guarantee of everything for you. You don't lose that, and you can always build up from it. You're not always stuck in just one spot. You have that. If you want it, it's there for you to take. The military is just an experience that beats none other. There's nothing that I've experienced in my life that even comes close to it. The people that have served, us guys that have served and everything, we understand what happens, and there's a lot of people that don't understand it unless you've actually experienced it and everything. So I urge you to really consider it, because it's the best choice in life you can make. And for me, I've never regretted a moment. I'm pretty sure that you would not either.
Is there anything else that we've missed you would like to add?
I don't know. There probably is, but it's I love the experience in the military. I wouldn't change it for a minute, no matter what.
Well, thank you so much for giving your time for this interview, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you.